The Detroit Lions are getting Jameson Williams back just in time for the game against the Carolina Panthers in week 5 of the NFL season. But the Lions are talking as if he's going to be on a bit of a pitch count. Is this the right move? Let's talk about that and a whole lot more in this video starting right now. What's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. I'm Miko, and in today's video, we are, going to, in fact, be talking about Jameson Williams and the fact that he has been recently reinstated by the NFL after previously being given a 6-game suspension for violating the NFL's gambling policy. As we all know, that suspension has been reduced, and Jamo is returning back to the Lions 2 weeks earlier than we all thought he would. And it's a happy day in Detroit. We're all happy to see the new number 9 in Detroit being able to line up with the rest of this offense and hopefully continue the success that this offense has had throughout this season so far and hopefully take it up another level. Now, with that said, though, when Dan Campbell met with the media today, there was a little bit of, controlling expectations when it came to Jamo because, again, while we're all excited to see him and have him back, in the fold with this roster, there is an element of this where Dan Campbell and his coaching staff is going to take an approach of trying to ease him into this, roster and ease him back into playing football at full speed. In fact, when Dan Campbell was asked about getting Jamo more involved and what that would look like, this is kind of what he had to say. Quote, "I'm not worried about him working. He will. It's just about polishing all of the little things. We also know if he does play, he can't play 60 plays. That's not smart. We can't do that to him." Now, let's be honest. When first hearing that quote, it does sound a little bit like Dan's not even fully committed to Jamo necessarily playing this week, even though he will be, reactivated or at least has been reinstated by the NFL from his suspension. The Lions have always kind of taken this approach, though, when it comes down to getting players back. Normally, it's obviously easing players back in from injuries, but in this case, it's a suspension. And I know, like many of you who may be watching this video, are probably in the same boat I am. When we heard that Jamo was reinstated, we immediately thought like, hey, he's going to get right back into this offense, start to get a good share of the snaps, and hopefully start to make the plays that we were hoping he would see now that he's relatively healthy. Again, we still have to hear exactly how he's dealing with that hamstring injury that he suffered back in training camp. But if all things are good, we should relatively, or a lot of us probably relatively expected him to get a good fair share of the snaps. What Dan is saying, though, specifically with that last part, is that, we can't do that to him. That's not fair. And I believe he's specifically talking about the fact that, listen, Jamo hasn't been playing NFL football for 4 weeks. Even if he's been training on the side, even if he's been trying to keep himself in shape as best as he can, he hasn't been playing football. He hasn't been getting hit. He hasn't been having to take reps with his quarterback. And that is going to take time. And in order to make sure that he is best set up for success, the best way they can do that is try to pick their spots with him and not give him too much of a workload to where it becomes a little overwhelming for him. And maybe where he starts to feel like, I'm not necessarily prepared in terms of conditioning, or he just feels like he's too in his head and trying to do too much from just simply being on the field for the first time in 4 weeks. Now, I know when saying that, that's not going to sit well with a lot of people. Jamo was drafted 12th overall last year with the Lions trading up to get him. And there are still plenty of people who were not on board with that move and have really high expectations and don't feel satisfied in what they've seen from Jameson Williams to this point. And to those people, I say it's relatively fair. Though I will also point out that this wasn't all Jamo's doing. Once he was cleared and able to play, the Lions still chose to take a very slow approach with him in his rookie season by not trying to give him a lot of snaps and not trying to put too much on his body as he was still coming off of that injury. Now we're going into this year, and it does sound like we're getting a little bit of the same rhetoric that, like, listen, we want to ease him into it. And I think that is, again, smart considering the fact that he hasn't played a lot of football, or at least NFL football to this point. But what I do think will be different from this time compared to last season is the fact that since Jamo's not coming off of an injury, I do expect that ramp up period to be a little bit quicker than it was in his rookie season. During last season, the most snaps that Jamo played all year was 18 against the Chicago Bears. And while we don't know for sure exactly how many snaps he's going to get this week against Carolina if he does play, I do think it'll be a little bit higher than that. And I think it will quickly go from 18 to possibly 20 to 25 snaps by the next week when he's finally getting reacclimated into this offense. But with that said, Dan Campbell did make sure to give a nice little caveat to what it would take for Jamo to be able to get back onto the field quicker and with a larger share of the snaps when he said the following: "It's all about improvement, no different than the rest of the team. Every week, we just got to get a little bit better. He just needs to get a little bit better, and we'll take it from there." This is another quote that I believe calls back to the time and the struggles that Jamo was kind of having during training camp, where he was struggling to get on the same page as Jared Goff. And even when they were on the same page, he was still struggling to sometimes catch the ball, which was definitely raising eyebrows by a number of people in the media during his time in training camp. And Dan taking the time to point out that, like, hey, even though he's back, he still has to show that he's getting better, is a clear sign of him understanding that the fact that his offense is a well-oiled machine at this point. They're performing at a very high level where every player on that offense seems to be clicking on all cylinders and seems to be on the same page. And so you don't want to simply like throw off that chemistry by inserting a player that hasn't been there for the last 4 weeks. Jamo's going to have to still prove that he can gel with this offense and fit into his role and still be able to do the things that they are expecting out of this offense. If that means running routes, he needs to be able to do that well. If it means blocking, he needs to be able to do that well. And of course, when the ball is thrown to him, he's going to have to show that consistency and that reliability to catch the ball. In fact, when speaking about reliability, that is the only thing that Dan Campbell is really looking for when it comes to Jamo in his return this season, when he said the following: "For me, it's dependability. That's it. Reliability, dependability. Go get lined up, know where you're supposed to be. We're going to get the right route depth out of you. And if we can count on you being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and that's it. I'm not looking for yards. I'm not looking for explosives, not looking for touchdowns. Man, just be a reliable receiver like any of those guys in the room. That's it." And to me, that's a good year because we're about winning. It's not about one player that'll help us win. With a quote like that, Dan is basically setting the landscape for his young wide receiver to hopefully give him an environment where he's not expecting too much of himself or believing that the team is expecting too much from him as well. This is a team, and Dan kind of says it at the end. This team is about winning. It's not about one person's stat line. And I think that is really important for Jamo as he returns, because, of course, if you've gotten to see his personality here and there when he's on the football field, he obviously wants to make plays. He obviously wants to be successful, but he's also shown the fact that he wants to see his teammates succeed as well. And Dan is making sure that Jamo understands through the media that, hey, as long as you're about helping the team win, as long as you're about doing the little things, getting lined up, knowing where you're supposed to be, and being a reliable teammate, everything else will fall in place. And you won't have to worry about this coaching staff being unsatisfied with your production. So while it's not the greatest news to hear that Jamo will be on a bit of a pitch count when he comes back, I do believe this is the best thing for him and the thing that's going to help him have a really good sophomore season. While this offense has been humming and has been clicking on all cylinders, like I said earlier, they have still struggled to find consistent wide receiver play. Amon-Ra's been great. Sam Laporte has been great. Josh Reynolds has had good games here and there. But having a guy like Jameson Williams, again, someone that you drafted very high and that you have very high expectations for and showed a elite level talent when he was in college, having that is something that this offense could really use as they continue to try to stack wins up each and every week. And I believe once they get past this initial ramp up period, we're going to see a heavy amount of Jameson Williams. Listen, Amon-Ra still going to get his snaps. Josh Reynolds is still going to get his snaps. But the likes of Marvin Jones is something that we've all known has not really worked out the way we thought it would. And Jameson Williams is probably coming back at just the right time to be able to give us an uplift in that category as the third wide receiver in this offense. Again, it's probably worth noting that he may not get his number called a ton in these first couple weeks, but we all know and we've seen the capabilities that he has when he's on the field of being able to make explosive plays. And knowing the type of offense that they have, and again, knowing the way this team has been built up and knowing how they very much root for one another, I don't think it's going to take very long for us to see Jamo get up to speed and start to be able to start making plays for this offense, both at the receiver position, both running the ball, or again, just doing the little things as far as being a good teammate, making good blocks on the field, and just again, bringing energy to this offense. So, with that said, let me know in the comments what you guys think overall about Jameson Williams being back, and let me know just how excited you are to see Jamo potentially this Sunday. Also, let me know what you think about the Lions choosing to take this slow approach once again with him. Are you excited about it? Are you frustrated by it? Are you frustrated but understand it? I want to know where you guys are on the spectrum when it comes to, again, the Lions once again taking a slower approach to getting Jamo ready for this season as he kind of comes off of his suspension. And if you're looking for any more Detroit Lions or Jameson Williams specific news, you already know you can head over to the Pride of Detroit website. Again, we are always uploading brand new articles and new things from the team over on the main website. And last but not least, if you are new to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel and you've never subscribed before, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button and be sure to hit that notification bell. That way you can be notified every time we upload a brand new video to our YouTube channel. Again, I'm Miko over here at Pride of Detroit. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch, and I'll catch you in the next one.